Hey guys, can everyone hear me? All right. It's been a couple of months since I spoke to everyone in this community. Really excited to be here. It's 1 a.m. here in Singapore, and I think it's my second or first time hosting. So welcome everyone to the Amazing Designs ADPList Coffee Hours, Portfolio Edition 6. So today, we have some really exciting guests with us and also mentors who are joining us for today's round robin portfolio review. Now, some of you guys might be wondering, hey, what's Felix doing here today? Where's Treats? So Treats, he has some personal matters back at home that he needs to see to, and be at the ADPList, we definitely want him to go and get his stuff ready, affairs in order. So we had given him the break. And today with me, I have Winona as the interim host that will be walking you guys through the entire portfolio review session today. So I'm super excited to be sharing some of the really amazing knowledge together with the rest of the amazing mentors with us here today. So drop your portfolios link down in the chat session and then tell us also where you're from, just so that the mentors know, we can choose different diversity of people and that we can have a very different opinion today in terms of what we will be doing. Right, so now I'll hand over the stage to our interim host for today, Winona, who is our community lead at the Amazing Design ADPList. Winona, take it away.
Thank you, Felix. Hey, everyone. It's my pleasure to welcome all of you today. If this is your first time joining us, we want to thank you for trusting us and thank you for sharing your work for critiques. ADPList is a community where designers learn from each other, grow together, and strive to be better. This is your community for designers by designers. Before we get started, I would like to share a big milestone with all of you. ADPList is honored to be nominated for the Shorty Social Good Awards by Envision for our commitment to engage the community in meaningful conversations. The Shorty Social Good Awards is an award program created to recognize brands, agencies, or nonprofits for their positive impact on the society. So let's give a round of applause to that. Woo! As we continue to mark our footprints around the world, we further the mission to foster an inclusive space and support network for designers, mentors, and companies to come together. Amazing things can happen at ADPList where all of us belong. We're also looking to host a virtual party in the near future to celebrate this milestone with everyone, so stay tuned for more details. We simply can't thank you enough for all of your love and support, and we couldn't have done this without you.
Right.
Okay, so we have 3 amazing mentors joining us today, and they're going to take turns reviewing your portfolios. If you wish to have your portfolio review, please share your portfolio link in the chat section below. The mentors will randomly pick a link from the chat and provide critiques within 5 to 10 minutes, and we'll have the last 5 minutes for an open Q&A. So feel free to drop your questions in the chat section, and our team will randomly pick a few towards the end. And now let's welcome our mentors, Prianka Rayamaji, Mark Holthy, and Yan Grishtang. Prianka is a product design manager at Pinterest, focusing on business growth, guidance, and monetization strategies. Mark is a design talent recruitment and talent strategist for nearly 10 years of experience building design teams in tech consulting, digital agencies, and product companies. Yan is an HCI and Accessibility Certified UX and HX designer, speaker, and mentor who has been in the industry for over 2 decades. So Priyanka, Mark, and Yan, can you tell us a little bit more about your experiences and maybe something fun about you in that order, please? Priyanka, take it away.
Yeah, hey everyone. Like Winona mentioned, I'm a design manager at Pinterest, and I've been doing digital design for over, it's been like 12 years. I don't even want to think about how long it's been. Started in the Flash days, recession #1 for me. So it's been a really interesting path for my design career. And and so some interesting things about me. I'm an avid cyclist. I've biked from San Francisco to LA in 1 week twice. I think I did that with someone that's on the chat, Mel Sweet, who did the talk last time as well. So yeah, I'm super happy to be here and give feedback.
Thank you, Priyanka. Mark?
Hey everyone. So yeah, as Winona mentioned, I'm not a designer, so I think I'm really happy to be, I think, the first non-designer to sit in on one of these sessions. I spent the last 10 years recruiting designers and creatives. I've worked for large global tech consulting firms. I've worked for marketing and digital agencies. And most recently, I worked for a product company called Deliveroo in London. So my experience is anything from very creative advertising type folks, all the way through to more kind of screen-based product and experience designers. So I'm hoping that I can give a slightly different type of perspective on some of the portfolio reviews today. I think a lot of companies now, if you're applying for a job, I think your application will pass through somebody like me, if not a design specialist, then certainly some type of recruiter before it gets to a Prianka or a Jan, for example. So I'm hoping to give a little bit of insight into the kind of things that I might be looking for and the similarities between that and maybe some of the differences between that and what Prianka and Jan might be looking for as well. So I'm really happy to give that insight. In terms of something interesting, so I'm half Indian. My dad's family are from India. I got married in a lighthouse here in London, London's only lighthouse. My wife and I have 2 rabbits that run around the house. Not up here, unfortunately. They're downstairs. Otherwise, I'd pick one up and show you, but I can't do that. So yeah, really happy to be here and hope you will get some valuable feedback from it.
Thank you, Mark. Jan, you're up next.
Thank you. Hey, everyone. Welcome. I appreciate everyone tuning into this. And as Winona mentioned, I've been in the industry for slightly over 2 decades. I've held probably every possible design position in the industry across agencies and client sites, freelance. At some point, even owned my own agency. Fun fact about me. Well, as Prianka, I'm also a cyclist, by the way, an avid one. I typically would bike to work, which is actually 12 miles each way every day. So it's 24 miles daily. Unfortunately, right now I've been bound to my house. And so I would whip out my road bike on the weekends. Meal prepper, photographer. I don't know. I worked on 3 different continents. I speak 3 languages. I was born in one country, grew up in another, worked and started my career in completely other country. Right now I live in the United States.
Thank you, Jan. And okay, let's get started. The floor is all yours. Let's start with Prianka. You can share a screen and we'll go from there.
All right, I just chose someone's, so I'm going to share my screen. But before I wanted to get started, I just wanted to thank all of the folks that contributed and want their portfolios shared and reviewed live. That is truly a humbling experience. So really kudos to you, because it takes a lot to, share your work publicly. So thank you so much. Also, so whoever's portfolio that I share, I have a few questions that I want to ask before I start diving into your review, if that's all right. Okay, let's have a drum roll. Just kidding. Okay, let's see. All right, so trying to also, for some reason I can't see everybody, which is weird. Okay, there we go. All right, so whoever is the person I pulled their portfolio, Sorel, am I saying it correctly?
Sorel.
Sorel. Hello. Thank you so much for putting in your portfolio. I just wanted to ask a few questions. So one, so it says that you're a product designer. I'd love to understand a little bit. One, what is your area of focus or specialty in product design?
So I actually just completed a design program, and I'm coming into the market as a generalist.
Awesome, great. And what kind of company are you looking to join? Are you looking for an agency, a startup, or a large company?
I'd like to be part of either a large company or agency. I know those are two very different environments, but as a junior designer, I'm very aware of my lack of experience, and I'd like to be a part of a team that I can be supported, as well as supporting, the company. So, young in my career, would like to support.
Great. And specifically within that, so you're looking for mentorship, and is there any other things that you're looking for within that larger context?
At the moment, I do have a mentor, but yeah, I would just be continuing mentorship within a company, as well as just refining my design thinking process and understanding best practices.
Awesome. Thank you so much for sharing that. It sort of helps me to kind of understand the kind of where you're coming from, and helps me to kind of like ground where I can give feedback. So I really appreciate it. First of all, I just want to say I love how simple and clean your portfolio is. And I love that I can immediately see that you're Los Angeles based, you're a product designer, and that you care about user-centered design or human-centered design. And what really struck me when I first looked at your portfolio was that you kind of described like, hey, I'm doing some in-depth case studies here, and there's a whole wide range. So it really speaks to that like generalist work that you mentioned that you have. I think just here in particular, I'd love to just kind of get a little bit more about like your generalist skill sets that you bring to the table, in terms of like, do you lead user research? Like what do you mean by product strategy? Just some like really simple kind of basics of just some of the skill sets that you have. And I love that I can just scroll down and get kind of start to see some of your projects that you've worked on. Once again, it's super clean. I love just like visually the minimal amount of colors, and how you use them. Just kind of tells me from like a design perspective that you like to keep things simple, which is always great. All right. So usually when I'm looking to hire for designers, I kind of want to get a sense of like who they are. So I always kind of jump straight before I even go into the work, their about section, because I really want to get to know the person I could be working with and the person I could be hiring for. And so here, this is great. I love that you kind of give your specialization here. I think it's okay to bring it into the landing page. Some of the advice that I give in particular is like, sometimes I kind of I just recommend putting the about page as your first page, or just like aspects of it. So then I can go from there into your work and get a sense of who you are. Because I always jump to the about to learn about you, and you have everything that I mentioned there here. So, and I like that you're being really clear about, hey, I'm looking for roles in LA or New York. So I think you did mention you wanted to work in a larger company, and that you want to kind of like develop the skills and get the support that you need in a larger company. So from that perspective as well, I would recommend putting some of that, like what you're looking for in there too, just so you're kind of weeding out like who you're targeting. All right, so let's go into your work, but I think this is great. I love that you have, everything about who you are and what you care about, what you value. So awesome job there. And I love your photo. It's just really, it's great. Okay, I'm just gonna click on the first thing. I haven't taken a look at this yet, so, all right. This is, I would say this is how a hiring manager will scan, is they'll kind of look at everything first and then kind of go in for a deeper detail. So the first thing here is, like, I see that you're very visual and you have a lot of different things going on here. When I typically am hiring, like, something that helps me in particular with portfolio, like with just like the hero image, is like a prototype, like a something that is animated, or like a few screens. Like, I think this, I want to be able to kind of see like the problem that you're trying to solve, like essentially what was that, so then I can say, okay, based off of like what they're trying to solve for, this, then I can go into detail. I think having something that's like more of an animated hero, or having a few screens that kind of shows me the interactions, helps me to, one, gain context in terms of your work, since I'm new to what Mirror is, and I don't have all the context there. And then from there, being like, okay, they focused on these kinds of things, and so I'm going to look for how they solved this particular problem. So I would say keep it a little bit more simple here and not have as much going on, because I don't really know what I'm looking at here. And if I'm looking at this in my laptop, I have less real estate too. So I always kind of just, you know, try to see what I can understand from that. So I like that you have your timeline, tools, your role. I'd love to understand if you did this just by yourself, or if you did this within a group, and sort of like what were the specific things you did within the UX research and design elements. Like, did you do interaction design here? Did you do, like user interviews or surveys, etc.? And I love that you also have a goal here, which is to create a responsive online website and update the current logo design. I think that it's really nice to kind of see your overarching process here, and just including all of the type of work. I love that you have a competitive analysis. I don't see that enough, especially for new folks. So just like knowing that you know how to do a competitive analysis is huge. That's pretty much industry standard and how we look at the landscape of our businesses and organizations. So this is great. It might be helpful here just to kind of have like a quick insight about like what did you take away from this? I think you have a little bit here, but just more so like, were there any things from here that inspired you for your design solution? I love that you have a persona here. I think something with personas, I would love to kind of not have it be as detailed here. I think it'd be just helpful to really understand what are their, like just like a simple sentence or two that just outlines their goal and their pain points. And I think just stating that, or like in a quote way, would help me to build empathy quicker as a hiring manager. Love that there's a user flow here, although even though my monitor is a little bit large, I can't really see it. So I guess I can zoom in, which I just found out I can do, so that's helpful. But it might be helpful to not have to do that.
Sorry, Priyanka, I have to jump in because we're running out of time.
Okay,
to, like wrap it
cool.
up in the next minute or two. Thank you.
Got it. Yeah.
We absolutely love what you just said. Yeah, thank you, Priyanka.
No worries. I just realized I'm like, I might be going over. So yeah, just to quickly wrap up, I think this is great. I would love, I love that you show this work and your flows here. One thing I would say is really talk about like the impact that you're making through the process and not what just the process is. Like oftentimes I see a lot of times like, this is what we did, this is what's going on, but it's more helpful to be like, hey, I did this thing and discovered these insights, which led me to make this design decision or this interaction decision, rather than a holistic view of like an entire project, because I really want to dig down into like your specific skill sets.
Thank you so much.
All right, I'm done.
Thank you. Let's move on to Mark. And if you want to learn more or talk to Priyanka, make sure you go to our ADPList.org and then /mentors, book a time in her calendar, and then she can talk to you in more details.
Yeah, and guys, I just put a summary of Priyanka notes there. So I will do that for all the mentors. So I sent it to the chat. So go for it, Mark.
Cool. So yeah, just want to echo what Priyanka said. Thanks everyone for sharing your work in this kind of a forum. I'm going to do my best to, let me pick something now. Okay, I'm going to share my screen. Okay, can everyone see that?
Yep.
Cool. So is it Jamie? Am I pronouncing that right? I hope I am. So I'm going to kind of review this in the context of someone applying for a job at a company that I work at. So as I said before, some of the things I'm going to be looking at and the way that I look at it might vary from Priyanka and Jan, but I think, as I said before, it's really useful, I think, for people to see some of the differences in how work is sometimes reviewed and what's prioritized at different parts of the process. So I will generally be looking at a portfolio. This could be one of anything up to 100 that I receive. So I'm typically getting these before Priyanka and Jan would get their eyes on them in companies where I work. So the context is that I'm looking to go through this fairly quickly, and there's certain information I'm picking out here that is going to tell me whether this is somebody that can do the job that I'm recruiting for and is going to be someone that I should give a phone call to ask a few more questions and dig a little bit more into the details. So straight away, I think this is really nicely put together. I think it really stands out. It has a real nice aesthetic to it. It's really simple. I know who you are. I know what you do. I know where you live. There's a nice, very simple sentence about you and what you do. I like the links to find more information about you. And I think what I like up here is that you separated out product and graphic design. If you are somebody that's coming from one field to another, I think it's much better to separate the work out in this way than just have everything jumbled up into one huge portfolio with lots of different stuff like that. Playground sounds cool. I'm going to click on that in a bit. About, so similar to Priyanka, I always do click on the about section, but unlike Priyanka, I will only click on that if I like the work that I see. And that's simply because at this moment in time, the priority for me is, can this person do the job that I'm recruiting? But I do always make a point of looking at the about section before I speak to someone, because I want to understand a bit more about them. And I want to get a little bit of context and the conversation starter maybe for when I do talk to them. So if I jump into the work, so I'm going to click on the product design one here, because I'm going to assume, because you're highlighting the fact you're a product designer, I'm going to assume that you've applied for a product design job at the company where I work. So I'm going to jump straight into product design. Okay, cool. So straight away, I'm going to have a quick scroll through. 3 case studies, perfect. I won't click on any more than 1 or 2. So having 6 or 7 is to me not ideal. 3 is great. I can get enough information about each project before I click onto it, so I can be fairly selective about what I want to click on. And again, thinking about the time aspect of it, the quicker I can get to the information that I want, the easier it is for me, basically. Because you're a product designer, I'm going to select the mobile application design, simply because most of the product design roles that I've worked on will involve designing for mobile. So I don't want to discount the responsive web stuff, but I'm going to go to this first because I'm hoping it's going to give me the information I want that's going to tell me that you're a suitable fit for the job. So straight away, I really like the way that you've titled each project and given it some context and some emotion. So you haven't just said, you know, this is what it is. You've actually given me a statement which describes what it's supposed to do, which is a really smart way of getting me interested to look further at what the work is going to be. And basically make me care that what I'm about to see, and it's given me a really nice short description. So again, very good use of very quickly telling me what I'm about to look at. So if I jump into the case study, so I like seeing a kind of a hero image that kind of tells me what the finished thing looks like, because it gets me interested in what I'm about to look at. In terms of setting the scene, which is a really, really, really important part of the case study. I'm a bit ambivalent on people including tools. Tools change so quickly. It's not a bad thing to include, but I don't necessarily need to worry too much about the tools that you've used. I do want to know your role on the project, so this is good. It's good for me to understand a little bit about your contribution. And in terms of the team, I mean, the names are great. Understanding your role in the context of the team is more important than the people, but it's always nice to give a shout out to the people that you're working with. So that's all cool. Okay, so straight away on the overview, my initial instinct is that there's too many words there. I want maybe to understand what the overview is, maybe in a bit more of a condensed way. I will scan the portfolio rather than read it like a book. So it's nice to have context, but I want to get to the good stuff as quickly as possible. So I'm actually going to skip all of that first paragraph. So product team are free, problem space of how home cooks and food enthusiasts connect with others. Okay, so some sort of communal social cooking experience. 2 target audiences, really important. Tell me what problem you're solving and tell me who you're solving it for. And that really helps me understand what I'm about to look at. So amateur cooks, food enthusiasts, great, straight away without even reading that section. Just skimming through it, I can pick up what the problem is that you're looking to solve and who you're solving it for. Really nice use of heading and really kind of like highlighting the problem in a really succinct way. How might we statements, obviously a really good way of doing that, and putting it right at the very top gives my brain something to keep coming back to. So as I go through how you solve the problem, I can keep asking myself the question, is she solving it? Is this relevant to the actual problem statements? That's a really good way of really pushing to the forefront, this is what I'm trying to solve, and this is who I'm solving it for. Okay, so giving me some context to the challenge. So telling me about the context in which you're working is also really helpful for me to put the solution into some context. So you've been really open and honest about that and helped me understand that. So that's really good. Similar to the previous one, having a goal, again, helps me understand that you've got a problem, you understand your users, and you've selected a specific thing to look at. And then you jump straight into the solution. iOS app allows others to cook and connect with others simultaneously, no matter where they are. So the only thing I would say about the initial overview is this an actual thing that you made and is out in the world, or is it like a self-generated project? It's a little bit unclear to me at this moment in time whether this is an actual thing that's out there, or whether it's a self-generated thing. But I'll go through the solution anyway. So business research, again, I would just say blocks of paragraphs like that. A good tip is to like write that paragraph out and then just pull out 1 or 2 key points that you want me to know quite quickly. So you've tried to do that with the highlighting of text, but I would still say blocks of paragraphs like that typically get scanned over. So try and find a way of like breaking that into like 2 or 3 really key things that are important for me to know. So you've broken up a little bit of the visual, that's fine. So I think the good thing about the business part of it is you are starting to think about not just the user aspect of it, but also like, what does this mean for business? So I think with product designers, certainly the product design companies I've worked in, having a mindset of what is the business opportunity here is as important as what is the user thing I'm solving. So the fact that you're even putting business in there, I think is a really good a good sign to me that you're thinking about, okay, is this something which could be successful and something which actually is solving a problem as well as solving a business thing as well. So research, that's fine. I don't need to like go into lots and lots of detail on the research. Just tell me what the goal was, assumptions, great, bullet points, bold text, really easy for me to pick up. Insights, a really big quote there again, so I don't even have to read the whole thing. I can just see straight away, okay, I can see the insight from the research, synthesizing it, nice graphic there showing me how and this breaks up the text as well, so it makes it easy for me to scan.
Hey Mark, I have to jump in because we're running out of time.
Oh, cool. Okay, that goes real quick.
We'll wrap out in the next minute. Thank you.
Yeah, sure, no worries. So yeah, I think there's a nice mix of text and images here. And I think you are pulling out key points wherever possible. I would just ask you to think about like reducing the amount of text a little bit and just really condensing it as much as you can. Sketches, I'm quite happy to see sketches. I like to see some movement in the portfolio, so carousels and like GIFs and anything that's animated just to kind of bring the work to life a little bit. Mid-fidelity designs, okay, so these all look fine. I feel like you're going into a little bit of like very detailed text again. It feels like it's going to take me a while to kind of pull some of that key stuff out. Scheduling an event, follow a recipe, icing the cake. Okay, so we're going into more high fidelity designs here. Facebook login. Okay, so it's like a social aspect to it. So coming back to the original thing, which was like communal cooking. So yeah, stuff like this where I can see things moving is really helpful, I think. So we're starting to get into the solution now. So scheduling event, following a recipe. Yeah, I mean, I'm kind of getting the vibe of what you're going for here. Clicking on the prototype, that's really great. Next steps is good, thinking about what might be next and what you've learned and how you might develop it. My overall, I guess, feedback is I would think about reducing the amount of text and just kind of making that the key points of each section just pop a little bit more. I've got to the end of it and I mean, I've skimmed through it quite quickly, but it isn't clear to me whether, did you measure it? Did it work? Is it out there? Reflection is always good to have on the end as well. But I'm a little bit unclear looking at the end as to kind of like how you solved it, but I have gone through it super quickly. Overall, it's laid out really well, I would say. Just look at the text. It feels like there's a lot of writing in there that maybe you want to reduce and condense down. So sorry, that was really quick, but
all right. Thank you so much, Mark. And as usual, I have sent the notes to the chat. And next up, we have Jan.
Hey. So I've noticed a lot of people are looking at portfolios related to product design, UX, and so forth. I decided to do something different. Is there a Marcus Farias in the room still? Marcus, raise your hand. Say hi.
Yep. Hi.
Hey, Marcus, how are you?
Good, how are you?
Good. So among all the product designers and UXers sitting here right now, you're not. Can you tell me what's your goals in this review, or what would you like to learn?
Yeah, so I'm actually about 4 years into my career. I live in Toronto, Ontario, Canada, and I kind of wanted to get an overview on my portfolio in regards to kind of a different perspective from my colleagues, my peers, somewhat different from the industry that has fresh eyes. My long-term goal is to kind of work in sports. I've been working in sports for the last 4 years, so I've worked in sports marketing agencies. I now work at the CFL, Canadian Football League. It's the equivalent of the NFL in Canada. So I do kind of various things in terms of print campaigns to print collateral, editorial. So I kind of wanted to get a perspective on other people's eyes on my portfolio.
I see. Okay. All right. Can you see my screen?
Yes, I can see your screen.
Good. So I'm going to start running through this. And once again, I understand where you're coming from because I started my career in agencies and I began my career essentially in branding, advertising, and so forth. So the layout is pretty well done. I can see all of your products that you worked on and everything else. However, there are a few things that stood out to me, and I kind of skimmed through it while my colleagues here were going through other portfolios. I decided to gain some some time ahead. The one thing that I noticed is that you're lacking any kind of information on the projects. So if I'm looking at any other projects on your portfolio, the only thing that I can see is Smartly, trading app, art direction, branding, website design, Smartly trading, blah, blah, blah. So, okay, good. Now, as I'm going through a portfolio and I see all these details, have you been involved in all of this from beginning to end? Was your involvement only on the visual side? Was your involvement on the layout side? Was your involvement on only the branding side? That I don't know. And that's important to have on your portfolio. Also, if you're mentioning some kind of an app or a website, it's helpful to have a link so I can actually look at the app if it actually exists somewhere in the wild. That's one thing. Another thing is, and I see it across the board really. So this is a bit of a project description, but again, it'll be beneficial to have a description of what was done, what am I looking at, why are you presenting this specific visual right here, what was your involvement. Another thing you have to consider that a lot of the hiring managers, just like Mark mentioned, sometimes we'll have recruiters, sometimes we'll not, sometimes we'll see it directly. One of the things that it's beneficial to consider is who those people are and who you're catering to. And if you understand your audience, you have to also understand their limitations, abilities, disabilities, and things like that. So if I'm looking at your about page, or even here right on this description, I'm not as young, I'm not as old, but I do wear glasses. In order to see this, I had to do this. I literally had to enlarge almost double, if not more, the actual screen, because I could not read this. It's really bright gray on the white background. And I understand where you're coming from. As a visual designer, it looks slick. It looks cool. It's minimal. It's airy. It's simple. But at the end of the day, if somebody who's coming to your website, let's say you're aiming for sporting companies, right? Sporting companies typically ran by older generation people, and they're not designers. They're typically not creatives. They're typically business people. And if a business person comes to the website, he or she might not know that they can actually enlarge and look at the text, right? And for them, well, I can't read that. Okay, I'm going to skip that. Contact, same here. Too light, too light. I really have to concentrate. So once again, I'm not going to spend too much time on your portfolio because it's not a UX portfolio. There's nowhere to dive into details of the process and so forth. But I wanted to pick on this specific portfolio for you because I have a feeling that you might be missing out on a lot of opportunities just because you do not include enough information on the projects. The text on your portfolio is incredibly hard to read. And your about is very, very short. And one of the things that I actually mentioned to another mentee last night, try not to talk about yourself from a third person. When you do this, is career objective is to work. Do you have an agent that you'll be sending to have a meeting with somebody who wants to hire you? If that's the case, then, and it's being spoken through a third party, then you should have a contact information. As an example, I used to have an agent for my photography. And yes, my portfolio, my photography was written from a third person side. However, my portfolio were managed by an agent. And so if somebody wanted to reach out to me for a sale of a photography or to hire me as a photographer, they'll be talking to my agent first and then talking to me. So that's what I would recommend. Try to expand on yourself, who you are, why you're a photographer, why you're a designer, why you want to be in that field, what brought you to that field. Because a story of who you are tells us more than what you can actually do. Okay? And I think I am within my 10 minutes.
Awesome. Well,
Thank
thank
you,
you for
Ian.
week.
All right, thank you so much, Ian. And Priyanka, back to you.
Oh, another one? Cool. All
Yep.
right. All right. I'm just gonna pick one. Let's do it. Okay. Mehul Shah. I'm gonna ask you the same questions as well. So can you tell me a little bit about your focus or specialty?
So I've recently graduated from a master's program from UW in Seattle, and I'm looking for work right now. So I really want a good critique on my portfolio, the kind of projects I should be showing at the top, because I've worked on immersive mediums like virtual reality, but I don't know how to show a 3D immersiveness on a 2D screen. So my work on VR, I'm still working on it, and I haven't completed that. But I've done some screen designs, and I'm pretty confident about that. And I've laid out the process pretty straightforward on my portfolio. And I would love to have some critique on it so that I can land up a job which I really want to, which is in some of the big tech.
Awesome. Thank you for sharing that. So it sounds like you want to stay within kind of like the VR space as well, right?
Right now,
Like
because of COVID, I want to be a bit more generalist so that I can I mean, I'm not really concerned about the medium because mediums keeps changing from virtual reality to a normal 2D screens or foldable screens, but I want to be a designer generalist.
Got it.
Something like a T-shape.
Cool. I think like my overall feedback, I know everyone's like, I'm new. I don't really know what the heck I'm doing. And like, or, you know, I'm still kind of learning. So I'm a generalist. That's totally fine. I struggled with that too when I finished my master's. Like I came from a graphic design background and I ended up getting my master's in HCI. And, you know, I really fell in love with UX research. And I was kind of in this like, am I a designer? Am I a researcher? Am I a generalist? I don't really know, but I'm going to figure it out. And what I realized from that is I'm first and foremost a product designer that really loves leveraging research into my design. And so I would say like kind of, even if you are a generalist, like I think it's super helpful for me to still like get a sense of what your focus areas or specialties are. Because if my company even like remotely is thinking about like the VR space, like at Pinterest, for example, we do like virtual try-ons with like lipstick and, you know, that kind of stuff. And so like having a designer with some like VR, AR background, it would be like super valuable. So just kind of, you know, if you just came in as like, I just do generalist work, I wouldn't really get a sense of like, oh, I can apply that to one of my teams that I have. So just kind of going from there, I think it's really important to highlight that I love that you have namaste. You know, being Nepali, that's also one of our words. So I know it means hello and goodbye, and I love seeing it there. So that made me really happy. But I love that you have work that you quickly say capstone project advised by Microsoft. That's really great. You've done previous design work before, and that you're a UX design engineer turned into product designer. And I love that you talk about that you have like the technical skills as well and create delightful, scalable user experiences. So yeah, so just like overall super clean. Love that you also have like fun stuff. So just kind of like really gives me a sense. I think just kind of getting a sense of like who you are and what kind of stuff like that maybe I also have interest in is always nice to see. So I love that you have that here. And then I also love that you also have your resume. So I can quickly go to that if I'm like, oh, I just want to like get a sense of the work that he's done. So glad you don't have the like skill thingy there that shows like, because I just can't with those. I've been guilty, so take that. All right, let's take a look at your project. I can immediately see, I love that you're kind of moving things around from like a transit perspective. So I love like just that like little bit of delight goes a long way. So I can immediately tell that you have some experience with building delightful experiences. And then you go quickly into your role. The tools that you used, which is helpful. Oh, great, you use Principal. I don't know what Fig Motion is, but I'm Googling that after. And you also listed your team. So I get a sense of like this. It would be helpful if you kind of also, even if this was a school project, like it'd be really helpful if you like let me know like what their roles were too, so I can kind of get a sense of like how you worked within that. See, this was a few months long, which is great. This might be like a hot topic, but I really hate the word challenge. I don't know why. There's no logic, but for me, it just like, I just really want to understand like what the problems are rather than challenge. It's just like a personal preference, but when I read that, it feels relatively junior. Like I would rather have it kind of be framed more of like, hey, this is the problem that we're trying to solve for. I love that it's very clear what you're trying to solve for, and that you care about accessibility, and that's like a really important part of this design. And you have a video of what you're working on. I rarely click into videos. I think GIFs are a much better way to tell that story. So I usually almost like, if it auto-played without audio, that'd be great. But I just would rather see more so like something that just already kind of animates. I also love that you have key features here and really great GIFs. This is awesome. It really helps me to understand what you're trying to do and understand like, I think one thing I would love to understand is like the accessibility, like how does this help in that way? But yeah, this is great. You have a lot of different features here, a lot of interactions. And you have a process here, which is helpful. I think like previously, there's just a lot of.
All right, Priyanka, I think it's almost time. Yeah, but this is a really long portfolio, but appreciate the thoughts there. Yeah.
Cool. Yeah. I mean, it's kind of the same.
Thoughts? Yeah, go for it.
Yeah, I think it's the same as what kind of Mark mentioned, like just being really succinct about the work. I think also one thing I would really push for people to do is we tend to like separate out our high fidelity prototypes and our like sketches and stuff. I would love to see an example where you show like your low fidelity, medium fidelity, and high fidelity like side for side, so I can see like your iteration and how you thought about that work rather than having to scan down. I'd love to just kind of see it side by side so it's more at a glance. That's all.
Right. Thank you so much, Priyanka. And I 100% agree. I don't think this is something that we saw in the previous portfolios in terms of iterations. And I feel like as a design lead as well, I find that incredibly valuable to just look at like different iterations, because that is so important to understanding what they're thinking and like what they're trading off there. So thanks for sharing that. We will come back to that later during Q&A. So let's go for the last one. Mark, do you want to go for that?
Yeah, no probs. 2 secs. Okay. Okay, can everyone see that? Cool. So this is Sarah, UX designer, marketing and scientific research background. So pretty interesting background there. Good to know where people sort of how they get into kind of design. And it's good to kind of put that out there if it's something specific like that. 3 projects, again, perfect. I like the way these are laid out, really nice and clean and really clear about what each project is. So I'm going to dive straight into the work again, as I normally do. So this has my attention straight away. It sounds like a really interesting thing. So I'll click on that first. Antispacisbookshelf.com. So I'm going to assume that this is it's hypothetical. So it's not an actual thing. So it's obviously something that an idea or a concept that Sarah's kind of come up with. So how does Sarah set the scene? So she's showing me some images of what it looks like. Okay, so visually, it looks okay. It's not kind of jumping out at me, but it's a really interesting thing. So I'll keep scrolling through. Project length, really helpful to give me that context. Business goal, really clear. Sarah's role, really clear. Who the users are, who she's designing for. Okay, and then inspiration. So this is kind of nice because it's kind of telling me that it's something that's important to Sarah and something that she's kind of passionate about. So I think if you are putting something in your portfolio which is kind of more of a personal project or hypothetical one, it's always nice to give that kind of context as to why it's in there. So straight into research. So this is kind of a point where, as a non-designer, I mean, Jan and Prianka might have a point of view on kind of the actual kind of quality and the design decisions that have been made. I'm curious as to why secondary research has been conducted here. I'm guessing because it was quicker and easier, and maybe there weren't actual people to talk to. But I'm not totally sure that social media platforms and blogs, I mean, it's a good way to get research. But I mean, I think I kind of, my immediate question is why secondary? There's some highlighted kind of points here, which is easy for me to read. Competitive analysis, to look at checkout patterns. So this to me seems pretty logical and pretty smart as far as looking at kind of things that people are already familiar and comfortable with. Again, designers might kind of draw different conclusions from this as actual designers versus myself. But to me, it seems like a smart thing to do. Pros and cons, really clear. I kind of like the pink boxes. It kind of makes, and this is kind of one of the things I was talking about before about like big blocks of text versus how you can still display similar information, but in a way that like the eye is much more comfortable looking at. So, you know, blocking out text like that is kind of one such way. Mixing up images and logos with bullet points also. So I can really quickly pick up the pros and cons and the competitor analysis. So prototype and validation, structure the site so users can easily find and purchase literature. Okay, so we're jumping straight into kind of sketching and very basic kind of like lo-fi prototyping here. Based on e-commerce patterns, search-centric homepage. Okay, so that's a decision that's been made, fine. So straight away, I would kind of say that I would quite like something a bit more high fidelity and something a bit more visually appealing to look at this point, because when I'm scrolling through, it's been a while since I've seen anything that's kind of like showing me the work in progress kind of thing. So it's very lo-fi here. This might be a good point at which to kind of start building some kind of more visually kind of appealing or kind of more high fidelity kind of graphics in to kind of keep me interested in going. You get into kind of some of the decisions that you've made here about kind of the design solution itself, which is fine, because it's kind of showing that you're kind of iterating and kind of building the solution as you go along. I mean, again, the final mock-up of the home screen, I mean, and again, I'm not a designer, so I try not to make kind of like quality judgments on design as much as kind of designers might do. But to me, this isn't kind of jumping out to me as like a visually attractive kind of like really exciting way to present the information. I like that you've annotated the visuals though, because you know, you're giving me a reason as to why you're showing it, and you know, you're giving me a kind of a justification for why things are in there, which is really helpful for me. same with this. So product, so final like mock-up. So this is what it's actually going to look like. And again, thinking about your earlier goal to kind of convert visitors into users, you're kind of keeping it relevant to that and telling me that you've got that top of mind when you're kind of designing this, which is a good sign to me as well. Building a component library. So this is something that I think most design companies would expect you to kind of have experience of kind of working in. So this is, again, is a tick from my point of view as far as your experience, or at least like knowledge of it. And then I think, again, having learnings at the end. So obviously this is a project that wasn't released and wasn't kind of like launched. So, you know, things like metrics and results are going to be difficult to show. But I would always encourage, you know, some of the students that I've spoken to in my mentoring sessions, you know, putting something in the hand of your mum, your dad, a friend, anything that kind of shows me that you're kind of testing it on real people, who, even if it's just 1 or 2 people, is always a really good sign to me. So learnings are great, but I think even if you are working on a hypothetical project or something that's kind of a personal project, if you're working in product design, I think testing and putting it in the hands of actual people and telling me what you learned from that in any way possible is something that I'd encourage you to do, you know, whenever you can, because that's something that a lot of product companies will be looking for, even in junior roles or entry-level roles. So I think it's something that you can really use to kind of set yourself apart. So overall, I think it's pretty well laid out. As I said before, I think visually it kind of maybe isn't as exciting, but I think it kind of sets out to solve a business goal, and you've kind of kept that thread running through it in a pretty kind of smart way. So overall, I think it's pretty well laid out, nice mix of visuals and kind of text that tells me a story and explains to me kind of, you know, what each thing is that I'm looking at. And in the time that I've got left, I didn't get a chance to do it on the previous portfolio, but I am going to quickly jump into the about section because, as Prianka says, it is important, and it is something that I always take time to look at. So I always think of this as like, imagine we met at a party and you introduce yourself to me. So have that really kind of informal conversational vibe to it. I want to know like why you work in design, and particularly in this case where you've got quite an interesting background. I'm interested in that story. So now I've decided that your work is interesting and is broadly kind of ticking some boxes for me in terms of the job description that I'm recruiting for. I am going to jump into this, and when I give you a call, there might be some things in here that I pick out. You know, so clearly non-profit is something that's important to you. So you've obviously got, you know, clear kind of like passion around kind of ethics and kind of, you know, empathy for people. So I'm going to start picking things out of here that I might pick up with you in a conversation on the phone, and that really helps me get to know you a little bit more. So yeah, I agree with Prianka. Do take some time to really be thoughtful about your About Me page and what you want to kind of tell me in that conversation. This is a really good one, really nice use of text, big bold text here, nice picture. So I kind of get a feeling that you're talking to me, and some other things I can click on here if I want to find out a little bit more about you. So yeah, I mean, I think, you know, as I say, overall, I think this bit here is nice and appealing, really simple. Tell me what I'm going to be looking at and helps me kind of tell the story. Again, another hypothetical project. So not the be all and end all, but I think for more senior positions, I'd be looking for at least a couple of pieces of work that were like real life kind of launched or shipped pieces of work. But I think, you know, you're really clear again about user goals, business goals.
All right, Mark, got to cut you there. Yeah.
Sure,
Running
no worries. I mean,
time.
this looks like a very similar layout to the last one. So I would say, you know, feedback-wise, it's probably going to be very, very similar, I would say.
Okay, thank you so much, Mark. And for the rest of the people in the chat, I have also typed some notes about from Mark's conversation. So feel free to take the notes from there. Right, so last one we have Yan before the Q&A. So you guys can start typing in your questions. So Yan, go for it.
Hey, first of all, I would like to weigh in on something that Mark mentioned regarding the visual aspect of the portfolio he reviewed for Sarah, I believe. One of the things is that, Sarah, don't get too discouraged, because if you're applying for a UX researcher position, visual skills are not that required. And so only if you're showing enough of your research and the process itself, it would be enough, because typically in larger organizations, you'll have visual designers that will take care of the visual side, and you'll be required only to do the research studies and so forth, prototypes and so forth. All right, let me jump in here. Who am I going to grab? Okay. I am going to grab Victor Adeyemo. I hope I pronounced your name correctly. Let me share my screen. Can everyone see my screen?
Yep.
Perfect. All right, so let me do this and do this. All right. Okay, so first thing first, this time I am jumping on a kind of a product UX portfolio. Now, one of the things that immediately jumps to me is that yellow bright color and a black background. Kudos, good choice of colors combination and a contrast that stands out. The question here is intriguing. Has this ever happened to you? You know, honestly, when I see something like that on a personal portfolio, I'm trying to figure out if it's somebody applying for a job or is it somebody who's looking for a project to get into a freelance. So I'm not really sure. But I'm going to keep on scrolling, not to take too much from everyone's time. Victor Addiamo, product designer. More than that, I'm an interaction UX UI and brand designer. I'd like to see me as baby unicorn. Okay, a bit personal. I'm not sure why that is there. Advocating for users while meeting business needs. Okay, so one thing going great for you here is the fact that you immediately start your essentially story of your website with about you and the ability for me to go to about you, because I would typically go immediately to about the designer itself, not necessarily the projects. Why? Because I believe in hiring humans and not somebody who just knows how to design things. Because I can teach people how to use Slack, I can Sketch, Photoshop, InVision, and so forth. I cannot teach people having a passion or talent for design. And that's why having the about you is so vital, especially for somebody like me who's hiring people that not necessarily coming from the background of product design or UX design. As one of the designers that I have on my team came completely randomly from architecture, interior design, shifted into digital, and an incredibly talented human being that being rising through the ranks in our company over the past year plus really quickly. Product designer and brand strategist, helping companies launch delightful new products. I work across product thinking, UX design, gorgeous UI design, and interactive and motion prototyping. Okay. So that's a lot. Background. I worked in IT and graphic design industry for the past 5 years, with a first degree in computer science. Sorel. All right. So one of the things that I would like to say about your about page, it's good that you're being very detailed, but it seems like a little bit a lot, at least from my perspective. I do enjoy a good story of how you came to design, why you're a designer, what made you become a designer, and why you would like to stay in this industry to be a designer. What makes you passionate about this industry. But having this very long story, I'm probably not going to read it too much, because you have to keep in mind, typically somebody like me, Mark and Priyanka can attest to that as well. If we're hiring for a position, we'll typically go through hundreds of resumes and hundreds of portfolios. And so it's a click bite, right? It's a click through one by one. As soon as I see something that catches my eye, I will literally have maybe 5 to 7 minutes, at least preliminary, to skim through your website, look at some of your information on your about page, then jump to your work. Let's look at your work. Okay, on the travelers, one kiosk, F lens. Let's view this one. Case study number 1. Okay, should be a title, not just a case study number 1. Give me the title here, and then you can break it down into case studies of number 1, number 2, etc. if there are different ones on a specific project. 1D Travels. How can I get the best travel companion? Any app that shares cheap deals for each season? Okay. 1D Traveler offers the full range of functionality, search of the book quality. Okay. Main features, every country within your reach. All right, role, product design, UX research, methods, survey, competitive analysis, sketch, and principles. Okay, so that's an ideation part. I would not consider this a method per se. Date, great. Thank you for the date. It's important to know what are the dates you worked on this. Tools, XD, AI, PS. Again, I think Mark or Prianka, I believe, mentioned earlier, it doesn't matter the tools. At the end of the day, most of them look the same, work the same. We all curious about your process, your flow, how you solve problems, what you learn when you do the studies and research and interviews. User story. Mobile is essential to traveling, nearly 50%. All of this is great. First of all, is reviewed in world mobile travel related. Okay, over the first period of flying. So right here, when you outline the user story, mobile is essential to traveling. Nearly 50% of travelers take part. It would be beneficial when you also include how did you get to these numbers? Where did you get them? If there is a research that you reference from somewhere, it will be ideal if you can also add a link to that specific research. So if I am curious to know what that research is, I can go and read. And also it's kind of a good courtesy to reference researchers that you take from other companies or organizations just for a reference. Trend and feature. As a result, some of the common design functionality trends, incorporating best practices and unique approaches. Simple, intuitive search, ease of use, usability to, okay, simple. Are you downloading? Okay. Here's another problem that I keep seeing in a lot of portfolios. This is an image with the text. Once again, I can't highlight it. I have to enlarge it to read. And if I enlarge it too much, it becomes a little fuzzy. Every kind of information that being presented in our portfolio should be live text. That's my opinion, and I think that it's also beneficial for anyone who presents their portfolio, especially if somebody who's reading your portfolio is somewhat visually impaired, has thick glasses, or doesn't have their screen on full brightness. So these things have to be live text is always going to be the winning element for me up on top of the visual that I can't enlarge. I have to literally zoom in with my computer, and FYI, not every computer has that option, especially if you're on a slightly older desktop, you will not have that option. So keep that in mind.
Right. Yeah, and I have to cut you off now, so we'll go straight into the Q&A. Thank you so much for providing insights. So our team has picked randomly in the chat section, and Anupa asked the question that for all the speakers, if someone has a certain disability, should we be open about it in our portfolio as it is a part of the persona's design journey?
If someone has a disability, are you talking about the designer himself?
The designers themselves.
Okay. I believe these things are personal. I don't think you should be disclosing it everywhere that you have a disability. But again, it's a personal choice. So I've seen portfolios that people would mention that they have a disability. I had interviews with people that would mention that they have a disability during the interview, but not on their portfolio or on their resume. So once again, I think it's very personal. I don't think there's like a rule that says you either should or should not.
So I would just say, as a recruiter, I wouldn't expect that information on a CV. So I wouldn't expect it on the portfolio. If you want to share it, then fine, but I wouldn't expect to see it on there. If we had a conversation at that stage in the process, then it would be good for me to know that, as early as possible in terms of, setting up interviews and things like that. But I certainly wouldn't expect that information to be on something as public as a CV or a portfolio.
Yeah, I would agree.
Yeah, I think it's more so around like, how can we best accommodate the person and when is that the best time? So just however best we can support you. I think that's like, I agree with Mark and Yan around that, but I don't think it's really a personal choice depending on where you want to put it.
Okay, thank you. And let's move on to the next one. The This is directed at all mentors as well. What has been your biggest success factor that brought you where you are today? And what can you tell recent grads from your experience? This question is from Niraj.
Wow. Anyone wants to jump on that?
Probably more relevant for you and Priyanka, I would think. Unless they want to switch into be a recruiter, I've got lots of advice on that.
Priyanka, you want to start?
Yeah, sure. I think I mentioned it in the chat, but like my journey was really whack. I was a book designer when I first started out, got laid off after my first year, and was unemployed working at a deli and a retail store for 2 years, and just learning how to code because my school had taught me Flash, and that in 2009 wasn't really applicable anymore. So I taught myself how to code in that free time and really just like try to keep up with my skills from what I had learned in school. And I mean, it took me like so long to get to where I'm at. I can't believe I am where I'm at. It's been really humbling. And so I would say just like really, really try to like be adaptable, take the experiences that you have with pride. Don't ever be ashamed of where you came from, and really like use that to your advantage, because that's going to like your adaptability and willingness to like persevere is going to make you, you know, who you are in the future and who you are today. So really push for that.
Wow, this is really, really inspiring, Priyanka. Like I think one of the quotes that really hit me while you're saying that is that really in terms of like toughness or like difficulties and stuff like that, is that it's not the strongest that survives, but ultimately the people who can actually adapt to the changes. Now, if we look at Homo sapiens, if it was true, this is not based on like any sort of like any wild imagination, but it's really based on facts, right? Like if we look at Homo sapiens, we are not the strongest species, right? When we were born, like if we were a stronger species, probably it would be the Neanderthals or whatever that is to sort of take over the humanity. But we are here because we are able to adapt to different changes, and I think you definitely portray that really, really well through your story. Really, really inspiring, Priyanka.
Yeah, I'll add to that. As Priyanka, my first, as was mentioned, I started many years ago when the internet was just starting out, basically, and so we didn't have UX or anything. It was you had a one single profession, which is a web design. It was still in such infancy that no one knew if it ever going to be successful or you can make any money in it. My first job, or my first probably year plus in my career, I was working at a gas station on night shifts, doing projects while I'm at night shifts, trying to build my portfolio, trying to satisfy clients that even themselves had no idea what they were asking for. So yeah, adaptability. Yeah, try not to be disappointed from a lot of things, because you will have no's and you will have people saying no, we're not hiring and so forth. So that's just be adaptable, flexible. Yeah, I think that I would say that's how you basically get to where you need to be, not where you want to be, but where you need to be. There's a huge difference between what people want and what people actually need. So yeah, I did not have any expectations, and my career path is full of bumps and weird detours and all over the place until you get to a point where you're like, okay, that's where I'm really fit in.
Thank you for sharing. Felix, I'm going to ask you to take our signature selfies now, and then I'm going to announce our next event while you do that. Felix.
So I'm going to take the selfie. So everyone, if you're here, and if you're glamorous or whatever that is, turn on your camera. So we're going to go for a quick selfie. And as usual, this selfie would be posted on our LinkedIn. And then we would sort of post a short reflection. And if you have taken some notes from this session, please feel free to tag us, #ADPList, or tag our page. All right, so here goes. Okay, the first page, 3, 2, 1. Yep, and tag the mentors. Yeah, Mel is right, tag the mentors.
Okay, all right, Felix, do that.
I see that Sarah has a dog, right? Okay, the second
page,
page,
Mel
3,
dancing there.
2, 1.
Okay, so our next coffee hours, the portfolio edition number 7, is on Wednesday, September 16th at 12 p.m. Eastern Time. We'll be joined by Steph Krill, Boo Condola, and Cami Travis Groves. So stay tuned to our LinkedIn page, and then we'll be announcing the details in a little bit, also releasing the notes that Felix took from today's section. We're also launching something very exciting this Saturday, so make sure you keep an eye out for it, okay?
Right, and also just to add on, I think we have came a long way as a community. So I just want to thank everyone here. Since Winona and I we're hosting this, and James joined here as well. As a community, we have came a really long way. I think some of you here might have seen ADPList when you're still an Excel sheet. I think most of you guys have probably witnessed that. And today we have grown into one of the fastest growing and of course most active community because of all of you here. So I want to thank all of you. And I think the most important thing that I've learned throughout this journey on a very personal note is that, is that when you create a community where everyone can belong, it just seems to me that, whatever your identity is from whichever part of the world, it doesn't really matter when you can actually find a place where you can belong and then just be yourself. So I think that is the most important thing that I've learned from this journey with all of you. So I once again, I thank you all for joining. And of course, do celebrate as well, because the Amazing Design People is the nominee of the Shorty Awards, Social Goods. So take that like a Grammy Award of sorts of nominee. And I want all of you to go and celebrate on your own, individual houses, homes, and treat this award and nominee like your own. Because we are here today because of all of you. So thank you so much for joining, and I appreciate it, and we really appreciate it, and see you on the next session. See you guys. Bye.
Yep. Bye. Oh, one last thing. If you'd like to share this episode with a friend or watch the replay, feel free to visit our YouTube channel at youtube.com/ADPList. Make sure you hit subscribe as well. And goodbye, everyone. See you soon. You may not exit the call. ADP internal team and guest mentors, please stay back for a debrief. Thank you.
Thanks. Okay, so the people still in the chat, you guys can leave right now. For mentors, please do stay back. We would love to have a debrief with all of you and the team as well. And I think if Mel, you're here, you can be free to join us as well, Mel.
I think she already left.
Oh, she left? Damn.
Yeah, I think
Yeah,
so.
she left already.
Maybe we should ask her to come back. Let's start removing people from the room.
Did you say you want
Alright,
Mel
please
to
go.
come back?
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh,
Does she want to
I'll
join?
text her.
Right, get her to
You're like,
come
no,
back.
come back.
Okay, let's start removing some people from this.
Some people are persistent.
Felix, I think I'm seeing someone's screen. Is it Felix?
Right, you are.
I think I'm looking at your screen.
Someone's Spotify.
Yep, that's my Spotify. And we have, okay, we're just down to a few people. Let's just remove all of them.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, simply click fast enough.
I just hope that we don't remove the the mentors or anyone here.
No, I think we're all still here.
Last one. Okay, Mojo,
Almost.
Mel Sweet. Okay, Mel is back. Awesome.
Yay!
Wait, who is this? I can't seem to remove this person.
Yeah, me either.
Hey, Mel.
Hello, Dancing Mel.
Hey, Mel.
Hey, Mel. Hello.
Mel has
Hey,
so
how are
much
you doing?
energy.
Good job, everyone. That was awesome. So good.
Yeah, great
Thank
job.
you.
Great job, guys. Really amazing. How are you doing, Mel?
I'm great. I feel terrible. Don't let me be an intern